So nearby Lucas, it's been a while. Let's crack open a beer. Huh? Ah. Who are we talking about today?
We are going to be talking about Sandman. I think his name is it Flint Marko?
Well, not according to the wiki I'm reading from. It says William Baker.
Because I've just watched the Sam Raimi movies and I'm like, is that what they called him in that movie?
I wondered why you were like, oh, do you want to talk about Sandman today? It's like,
Yeah.
Did you watch Spider-Man 3?
I had a rough time, Karl.
Okay, so we'll talk about Spider-Man 3, but first, we've got to talk about Mr. William Baker. So we have here, name, William Baker, the alias, the Sandman, and then aliases, Agent Sands. How is that an alias?
I don't know.
Got Sandy, Scrappy, his impersonations include Quarryman, and then Uncle Ben. Oh no. Uncle Ben, mate. Do you think he trolls Spider-Man by looking like Uncle Ben and melting away?
He's like, is he Clayface trolling Batman? Is that what that moment is?
Turning into Uncle Ben and then like the wind just blows him away. Do you like the end of Infinity War?
Oh, just dust him.
I don't feel too good, Peter. Ah! And then we have here, other aliases include Flint Marko. There we go.
Okay.
Unless this is like the second Sandman, because this might be the second Sandman, we don't know. Sylvester Mann, William Flint Marko, and then physical characteristics, gender, male, irises, no eyes, hair, no hair, unusual features made entirely of sand. He's called Sandman. This is what I love about wikis, like how just matter of fact they're written of just unusual features made of sand. That's not unusual in Marvel comics. Also, it's not unusual for a guy called Sandman. And we have here his occupation is an adventurer, bounty hunter, professional criminal. How scared would you be if you knew the Sandman was chasing you?
The thing is, all he has to do is wait for you to go to the beach.
Like, you're there, you're frolicking. Do you know what I imagine? It's like that moment in The Simpsons where like Chief Wiggum's like, crime never takes a holiday, and like Fat Tony's there with like all the guns on, and they're playing like volleyball.
But Daddy, you're on vacation.
Crime doesn't take a vacation.
Hey, careful, you'll pop it.
Oh, speaking of which, there's just a picture of here of like little baby Sandman at the beach. And you can tell that this man had a look from the time he was like I'm gonna guess like 8-year-old, because he's got the little striped underwear on. That man picked a look when he was like 8 and went, I'm sticking with it. Oh, so Lucas, would you like to get to the fun stuff?
Yeah.
Powers and abilities. Okay, so I'll go down to powers and abilities down here. But first, Lucas, tell me about the third Raimi movie.
What do you mean that one where like Sandman is set up as an antagonist and then just disappears for half of the film? I forgot he goes.
He's not in it yet, and I'm guessing you know the reason for that.
No.
It's Avi Arad is obsessed with Venom.
Oh, right.
Like, he fucking loves Venom, and when they were making the first Raimi movie, he kept saying, put Venom in it. And Raimi's like, no. Then the second movie came along and put Venom in it. He's like, I don't want to put Venom in it. I've kind of got a story with Dr. Octopus now. And then the third movie, he's like, put fucking Venom in it. And he didn't want to put Venom in it, but he's like, no, put Venom in it. And he was forced to put Venom in. Mm-hmm. And then he had to put Venom in alongside the other 2 villains already put in, because that's the common complaint, isn't it? There's 3 villains in that movie, and none of them get enough screen time. It's because that guy was just obsessed with Venom. Like, put Venom in the movie. People love Venom. So no, you love Venom, and Raimi's reasoning for not wanting to put Venom in the movie is that he's going to look shit. And then he looks shit.
Yeah, the CG in those movies, it really doesn't hold up very well.
Yeah.
And the only time I thought it did was with Dr. Octopus's arms, and then realised that they're actually like prosthetics.
Yeah, they were practical. We've talked about that in another fact feed video. I'm not sure when it's going up, but yeah, Raimi said like, well, Venom is a very distinct looking character. I don't think the technology we'd need to realise Venom is quite there yet.
He was right.
And I'd argue it's still not there yet, because they have a Venom movie where Venom still looks like shit. Every scene in that Venom movie just looks like hot ass. But anyway, powers and abilities. And I've just seen here, Sandman's power grid, his strength and his durability are a 6.
Ooh.
Which puts him up there with like some of the heaviest hitters in Marvel, because the ranking system is 1, 2, 7, with 7 being like basically infinite. So his durability is fucking up there. And we have here powers, sand body. Sandman's body is an amorphous blob. I'll get there. Sandman's body is an amorphous blob of animated sand. He originally possessed the ability to mold the sand into a shape that appeared to be completely human, and from that form converts his body or parts of it back into sand at will. How much control does he have over this form, and how similar does it function to his previous state is not yet known.
That's what's really interesting to me, is that he's not a man always made... Well, he doesn't look like a man always made of sand. Like, he can become, whatever his name is, Flint Marko or whatever again.
You can walk around looking like a human, but he is just living sand. 'Cause that's one of the things that we've covered, like, his physical description. He doesn't have eyes or hair, he's just living sand. And you made a reference to Clayface earlier, that's like spot on, because that villain, his existence is just torturous agony. Because he just, all he wants is his face back and to fuck his wife, and he can't. Sand control transferal. Since Marco's original body is dead, they just throw that in there. He is capable of giving control of his sand form to another body. He once used this ability with Spider-Man. Oh my
Wait,
God.
what? He can give his sand form to another being?
It says transfer control over the sand to another person, which he did with Spider-Man. You now imagine Spider-Man with, like, Sandman's powers.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Oh my God, that's so scary.
Because that means that Spider-Man is going to be basically assisted by 4 brick walls. Oh, Lucas, self-sustenance. Sandman no longer requires the need for food, air, or rest. Immortality. Sandman is immortal in the sense that he no longer ages. A possible future version of him had lived for 1 billion years.
Oh my God, no!
That is a fucking power. 1 billion years.
It's not seemingly as if there's a limited amount of sand that is Sandman, or
No.
that there's like some nucleus controlling the sand. It's just that he's, I don't know, he's like an ethereal sand object that could seemingly last 1 billion years.
Yeah, because you have that in the Raimi movie, don't you? Where he like goes into the dump truck full of sand and it gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then he goes to like the construction site and gets big because he steals all the sand.
But it's just weird to me because it's not as if, like, you know, in a lot of things where, as I say, there's like some kind of nucleus that can be destroyed. It's like,
Yeah.
what is Sandman?
Because I was going to say like One Punch Man. That
Oh,
villain
yeah.
at the end of One Punch Man Season 1, where he's similar, where he's just like this seemingly amorphous blob of weird goo.
Mm-hmm.
But they realise, oh, there's a part inside that can be destroyed, and that's what we've got to aim for.
Yeah.
And then you just have like, apparently one of the best heroes in that world is the guy with the baseball bat. He just baseball bats his way in.
How about another one? Here you go.
Anyway, body conversion, sand. Sandman originally possessed the superhuman ability to convert his body into sand by mental command. The sand functioned identically to and appeared to be normal flesh. However, he could convert all or parts of his body into animated sand at will. His brain had attained subliminal awareness of all granulated particles in his body. What does it feel like when, like, your arsehole's granulated? That's a bad time.
I still want to know how he makes clothes.
It's not just that. He like makes clothes. He makes clothes with his own fashion sense line. I love that. Through conscious effort, he could affect the degree of molecular cohesion between the numerous adjoining surfaces of his particles and thus cause locomotion of discrete volumes down to the individual grain, which means that like, he could send an individual grain of sand directly into your eye.
Oh,
Now,
and
do you know
just
when
have
you-
it like rolling around in your eye.
Do you know when you got like a little bit of grit in the corner of your eye there? He could do that with 2 separate bits of sand in each eye that are simultaneously going around the edge of your eyeball at all times. There appears to be no limit to how long the Sandman can remain in his sand state. If he had been rendered unconscious while in his sand state, he would remain in that state. So you knock him out and he's just sand. Then you just hoover him up. Although the relaxing of control over his particles will cause him to become an amorphous pile of sand, Sandman's mind continues to function in astral form even when he turned his head into sand, and even when the particles of sand composed his brain were widely scattered. The limit to how far the particles of his brain can be dispersed before he was unable to reassemble is not yet known. That means you're going there with a leaf blower and it still wouldn't work. Superhuman strength. As a consequence of having a body composed of sand, the Sandman possesses phenomenal superhuman strength. Really? I guess, like, you know, sand, like when it's compacted, is quite strong.
If he's got control over every individual particle, he can make them as condensed as physically possible.
Yeah, and we have here that he's able to lift up to 85 tons. And then density control. His radically mutagenically altered body, that's a sentence in a comic book right there, an increased density enabled him to compact or loosen the particles that make up his form at will. Consequently, the Sandman can become as hard as sandstone or disperse his body so he becomes invulnerable to physical attacks. A favourite tactic of the Sandman is making himself slightly dispersed when an opponent punches him and then making himself rock solid, which he does in the Raimi movie. It was Spider-Man's like, BOOM!
You know, apparently they got a boxer that had lost their hand to do that shot.
No, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and then they obviously just put like the CGI hand or whatever behind him. But yeah, That's the reason why it looks so good, because he
guy
could
with no
get his
arm.
arm straight up to his chest.
Without hiding it. Shapeshifting. He could shift his sand state into any continuous shape he can imagine, including his forearms into weapons like hammers, maces, and large fists, forming ramming horns on his head, stretching, elongating, deforming, expanding, flattening, or compressing all portions of his body at will. Like Mr. Fantastic, he can phase through small openings. That's scary.
Yeah.
So what happens, like, the Sandman's after you, and you look in the corner of your room, just sand.
The thing is, as well, you know, he could, like, say, for example, in this office here, he could be coming through every single window at the same time, and you just see sand, like, all coming through every orifice of the office.
Oh, Lucas, Glass Generation. He's learned some new tricks from, and I quote, the wizard, including altering the formation of his sand particles to reshape them into glass. This granted him the ability to reflect light and energy off of him, so he can become a mirror. Mirror Master, baby. Sand conversion. So here's like the one that makes him super scary. He can convert common grains of sand around him into constituents of his body to replenish portions he might lose track of during battle. And it says that using this ability, he can increase his overall size and volume to an unknown limit. So if he goes to the Sahara Desert, he can just become Continent Man.
Oh my god. Like, that's the thing. In theory, he can just get all of the sand in the earth.
Yeah, like he should go over to Egypt and be a super criminal there instead of like New York.
Yeah, there's not much sand over
Well,
in this
really, he's got
New York.
like Los Angeles. Go somewhere near the sea. Sand clones. Thanks to having such good mental control over his molecules, he'll ever create duplicates of himself, each one capable of acting on its own, committing many crimes. Like, what does that look like though? Like when you're chasing down a mugger and you grab him and he just explodes.
But that's the thing that is now I've got, when you said the Sahara Desert, is just got an image of Flint Marko walking into the desert, then an army of him coming back. Just what is...
And it's one of those tropes in comic books where it's like, all these super criminals could earn so much more money just doing mundane jobs.
Yeah.
And I like that I have it in My Hero Academia, where they talk about, oh, you can be a superhero, or you can just go into, like, you know, the world of work and use your powers there, as long as you've got a license. It's like the girl who makes things float. It's like, well, just go work in a construction company.
Yeah, like her dad owns a construction company. He's like, oh yeah, I wanted to learn how to become a hero so that I could just use that power to make things really light for my dad to live.
Yeah, because then we could just, like, you know, we can ship, like, infinite more freight if it doesn't weigh anything. Wall crawling, he was somehow capable of using sand to crawl up walls. I like that, somehow. He's fucking sand. Weaknesses, water. Sandman's weakness that makes him most vulnerable is water. Water can soften his sand granules, therefore, Sandman cannot control them and has to wait for them to dry. Oh no. So, Luke, I'm just going to read out the next two words, and I want you to react however you feel is appropriate. The soul molecule.
What? Is this saying that one individual molecule is like the soul of the sun?
Over the years, Spider-Man managed to discover that Sandman's consciousness is located in a single grain of sand, which has Marco's brain pattern and is responsible for commanding all the other grains of sand. With proper instruments, it can be induced to different ideas which make Marco change form against his will. If that grain is separated from the others and isolated, he can't recover his mass. Which means Spider-Man, if he got that grain of sand, could just put it in a little glass jar and be like, that is the strongest supervillain in New York. Equipment. The Sandman briefly used a suit he created with Reed Richards' stolen equipment that he used to mix chemicals with his sand to create new effects. Some of the chemicals could make his sand into a slippery puddle, a sandstorm, solidify him like a brick wall, adhering to vertical walls, and coat him with a substance that would turn him into poisonous powder. And then trivia, Sandman doesn't have a driver's license. He's sand. The soul molecule. I love comic books.